Well, hello and welcome to another Q&A with SJ. If you're new to Love Light, I started Love Light as a group because there wasn't anywhere at the time where bright and airy photographers could come together that wasn't specifically for digital shooters or for people using specific presets. And so Love Light started with the vision of just becoming a place where all bright and airy photographers could come together, regardless of film or digital or presets, and actually just inspire and encourage each other. And it's become an amazing community. So I'm really glad that you're all here and I'm so grateful for you all. So the next question that we have today that I've been asked is, what would be the best times to shoot for light and airy? I tend to shoot early mornings and evenings, but I feel like I shouldn't be afraid to shoot at earlier times of the day to get more light in. So this is a great question because often in photography circles, bright and airy circles, actually all photography circles, not just bright and airy, everybody talks about golden hour, golden hour, golden hour, golden hour, which is the hour just before the sun, just after the sun rises, and the hour just before the sun sets. And you get this gorgeous golden light in the air that you don't get at any other time. My husband Matt would probably be able to explain to you more why it's something to do with the refraction of light in the air. I don't know why, but at that hour in the morning and the evening, you get these gorgeous golden tones in the air, in the sky, and that then shows on your subject. You'll get these lovely golden highlights, which you'll probably recognize in pictures. That's what it is. They're shooting when the sun is very low and it's giving these lovely golden kind of halos and highlights to their subject. So with all this talk and hype of golden hour, I think that the benefits of shooting at other times in the day can often get overlooked. And I personally really enjoy shooting at earlier times in the day. And in some ways, I almost even prefer it to golden hour. And I know that's like really controversial to say and nobody says that, but that's just my preference. That's probably because being exclusively a wedding photographer, and I don't tend to do other projects, personal projects, editorial work, I don't even really do couple shoots or family shoots or anything like that. So my main arena that I've had to work in is on a wedding day when the portraits are usually happening sometime between 1 and 3 o'clock, which is definitely not golden hour, and often you've got very, very strong sunshine. So I think I've had to learn how to navigate the challenges of shooting in bright light but still maintaining the soft, dreamy, bright and airy feel. And I suppose I've just found my stride with it and I actually quite enjoy it now. So hopefully I can give you some tips that might help you to explore shooting earlier in the day and the benefits I think that has to offer. One of the benefits that I really like is that you do have the opportunity to really make pictures very, very white, because you can actually overexpose the background and keep your subject in focus much more easily, and that creates this beautiful white background and backdrop for your couple, which I really like, and I find I can't get that in golden hour. So that's one of the advantages that I like to shooting earlier in the day, mainly because I've had to. So I will give you then my five tips for shooting in bright light while still maintaining the consistency of a bright and airy style. So the first one I would say is you must be aware of your backgrounds. Find a light background. So one of the worst things you can do if you're shooting in bright sun is to have dark trees in the background. For example, I find that is the worst background when you're shooting in bright light is a heavily green tree, because that on the picture comes out very dark, and so it contrasts against the highlights on a person's face and makes the picture look overexposed. Hilariously, if you were to expose that same picture in the same way but with a light background, it actually wouldn't look anywhere near as bad. It would actually look like a really nice picture. It's only because of this very dark background that the picture is now looking contrasted and overexposed. So that's a really interesting one to watch out for. You must keep your light backgrounds. So I tend to go for open fields, or I tend to stand people in shade and let the background overexpose, and that creates a light background. Bright brickwork, anything that is a light colour will work really well if you're shooting in bright sunshine. The second thing is that watch for your flooring. Now, most people wouldn't think about this, but what your couple is standing on when you're photographing will make a huge difference to the overall look and feel of the picture. If you're standing them on dark flooring, dark green grass or dark gravel, again, the picture will look contrasted. If you choose a light flooring, like a light marble or a light gravel is absolutely ideal. That is like the I don't know what's the word, like the perfect scenario when you're shooting in bright sunshine is to stand on a bright surface. Now what's happening is that you're actually creating natural reflectors. So the bright flooring, this marble or the light gravel or a very dusky pastel coloured grass, will actually reflect the light back onto your couple. So it almost acts like a reflector. It's bouncing light back on, and so it softens the shadows that would have been there otherwise if you hadn't have had that light surface that the light is bouncing off of. So light coloured marble or gravel is absolutely perfect for that. So that's the second thing, is watch out for what they're standing on and whether you can utilize light coloured flooring and ground to reflect the light back up on your couple and soften some of those harsh shadows. The third thing is to find shade. Now this probably is my go-to every time I'm shooting in light, in very strong light, is I look for shade that I'm going to get. So an overhanging tree is absolutely perfect. So I'll take them into the tree. What I'll usually do is, rather than go under the tree and shoot with the trunk of the tree behind them, because that would then create a dark background because of the dark brown of the trunk, I will turn them round and I will stand with the trunk of the tree behind me and I will shoot with them looking outwards, and I love that effect. And you actually can't get this effect at other times of the day, only when the sun is really bright, because what happens is you have the leaves hanging down over their heads and bright, because you have to overexpose the background in order to get them in a good exposure, because they're now in dark shadow. So the background blows out and goes all white, and you just get these dreamy, hazy, semi-opaque little leaves hanging down, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. And that's probably one of my favorite type of picture to create. And like I said, you can't get that picture in golden hour. That only happens when the light is really strong in the sky. So that's one of the reasons that I quite like shooting earlier in the day, is so that I can get this picture that I really like. So I'm placing them in shade, sometimes even just having shade that the building is casting. I would stand them in that shade, but again keeping the background light, so I would be overexposing the background for them. And I call this a light tunnel. So what you're actually looking for, so interestingly, the picture that I posted on Facebook when I asked for questions was a picture that was taken in very, very strong light, and I'd done exactly this. I'd stood them in shadow, but with light behind them and light in front of them. And I call that a light tunnel. And it just helps me understand what's happening. So there's light going on them from in front, and there's light appearing on them from behind, but they themselves are in a little pocket of even light. So I've even utilized this in winter months. I've found, just the shadow where the line of the tree is crossing across a road, for example. I mean, there's not even any leaves on this tree. It's just the branch. There's just the trunk of the tree, but it's just big enough to stand somebody in that shadow. So I can stand somebody in that shadow, and again I can blow out the background and make this really beautiful light color. So I've actually put some examples in the free masterclass. If you haven't got the free masterclass, you can go to www.sarahjaneethan.co.uk/lovelight, and in that, it's a 1 hour masterclass, and I go through a lot of this stuff, and I've even been showing examples of my own work and how I utilize these light tunnels to maximize the light and to keep a consistent edit on my work when I'm shooting in very bright light. So that's the third one. The fourth thing, and I also talk about this in the masterclass too, is using what I call the 10 and 2 o'clock positioning. Now that's not time like an actual clock, like 10 and 2 o'clock in the day. It's more for me to imagine. So if I'm standing, like I imagine the face of a clock on the floor and I'm looking at my couple, I want the sun to be behind them at this angle or at this angle. So imagining it's the face of a clock, it would be a 10 o'clock position or a 2 o'clock position. And that slight angle of the light towards my couple works really, really well. And it creates a soft highlighting behind them, means that they themselves are in even lighting, because quite often that means that they are in shade. So they're almost creating their own shade. And this works at any time of the day. It works later in the day, but it also works, I might have used this at midday. and it still works. You even when the sun is high in the sky, you do always have the option to slightly get it on an angle slightly behind your couple, and even just that slightest maneuver makes the hugest difference. So again, I've given practical examples in the masterclass, and so that you can actually see this in practice and see how this works, and it really works, and is a really good one to remember. And the fifth one, if you can't do any of these things, is to semi-occlude the light. And that means that I literally had this a couple of weeks ago, that it was very harsh lighting and I was really struggling. And I don't necessarily just want to plonk them in some shade when I've got some lovely light, but I definitely don't want to take them out into the harsh light when it was being really strong on them at that time. So what I did was I found a tree that I could use to semi-occlude the sun. So the sun was here, and I positioned myself so that the tree was cutting across the sun halfway. And all that does is it just softens the light. So you're just naturally softening the sun using a tree. And that works really well. And it gives this lovely little sunburst. It gives this kind of like this hazy little splodge on the picture that looks really pretty. But it also means that the light is then a lot more manageable and a lot easier to work with. So those are my 5 tips for shooting in bright light earlier in the day. The first one is watch your backgrounds. Make sure that your background is light. Do not, under any circumstances, shoot with a dark background behind you. You will hate the picture. Watch out for your flooring. Try and find the lightest possible flooring to create a natural reflector. Find shade to put your couple in, utilising this light tunnel principle. That's really important. So it's not just bland, dark, colour-sucking shade, but it's actually a light, bright shade that makes that picture that you're looking for, that bright, soft style. Use the 10 and 2 o'clock positioning. So that's as you're looking at your couple, you want the sun to be behind them in that angle or in that angle, and find a way to semi-occlude the light using either a building or a tree. You want to just half cut off the sun so that you've got some light but not all the light, and that will work really well. So I hope that has helped. If you've got any questions that you would like for Q&A with SJ, then just ask them in the Facebook group. If you're not a part of the Facebook group yet, you can head over to Facebook and search Love Light Fine Art Community, and you will see our little community there, and you can come and join us. You'll be very welcome.